Hey guys, it's Yorkie here and welcome to the channel for our very first race in the new Online Championships game mode for Le Mans Ultimate. It's a new game mode that came as part of their latest release. And this is my very first race that I did it. I can tell you now, you're going to want to lock yourself in for this race because it is action-packed from start to finish. Some of the best racing that I've had probably all year. It was absolutely phenomenal. Now this new game mode is locked behind the new race control subscription model that Le Mans Ultimate has. You'll need to upgrade to at least Race Control Pro in order to access the game mode. There is a Race Control Pro Plus, which is a little bit more expensive. You can see on screen here the various different tiers and their actual pricing on a yearly basis. And as I was curious to try out this game mode, I decided to subscribe to the middle tier because this game mode has some things that appeal to me. It works in a fairly similar way to the daily races that are already available without the subscription here in Le Mans Ultimate. But there's a number of elements that are different to the normal daily races that appeal to me. The first is that each week is effectively a round of a championship. You score points for the races that you do, and the best points that you score each week go towards an overall championship. The races that you can participate in for a round are on specific days rather than every day of the week, and there's a limited number of attempts as well, which really puts quite a bit more importance on how you approach each race that you participate in. And you also pick the car that you're going to use for the entirety of the championship before the championship starts or when you first sign up to it. So I've chosen the BMW M4 GT3 and you are locked to that car throughout the entirety of the duration of the championship. So no more kind of hopping around between cars, picking the one that is best for that specific circuit. Anyway, to the racing action. This is going to be hot, this is going to be intense. We're starting P3, the first round here is at COTA, and as I mentioned, this is my first race that I did in this online championships, in my first attempt. There is the green light, and we get a pretty good reaction to that, pulling away very nicely as we're now actually coming up 3 wide on the run towards turn 1. The leader didn't have the best of reactions, but Ferrari on the outside there, BMW in the middle. We nose ahead momentarily in the braking zone, but then we kind of get a little bit squeezed, a little bit of contact there with the BMW as we come through the apex of the first turn, but no real harm done, no real foul there, and we are through, surviving still in P3. The Ferrari has managed to jump up from P2 up into P1 as there's a car spinning off in the rearview mirror, causing absolute chaos and mayhem behind us. But we are surviving nicely, and I'm now just trying to drive in a fairly sensible manner to slowly bring the tyres in up to temperature because they do start off cold, as do the brakes, so you don't have optimal grip straight away here in the opening first sector. And as you can see, because of that, the 2 cars up in front are still starting to pull away a little bit on the run down towards turn 11 here. However, the BMW is having a look down the inside of the Ferrari. This is going to slow the 2 of them down, allow me to close up a little bit. They're side by side out of the exit of that hairpin and now drag racing down this long back straight. This is a 45-minute race. We've got the fuel to go to the checkered flag without needing to stop. We shouldn't need to change tyres, and there is no mandatory pit stop. But as we can see, the Ferrari squeezing the BMW towards the inside before moving right to open up the hairpin for themselves. This should allow us to close up closer onto the back of this battling pair. And the Ferrari running out wide there on the exit of the hairpin, getting a little bit loose as we come into this tight right-handed kind of switchback series of corners here, and now we do close right up onto the rear bumper and underneath the rear wing of the Ferrari. So they're battling. It's helped to bring me back into play a little bit, but I'm just trying to take it relatively easy and relatively steady here in these opening first few laps, just to try and look after the tyres a little bit and try and preserve them to give myself a little bit more tyre life or a bit of a tyre advantage over the other drivers who may be pushing a little bit harder for later on in the race. At least that is my plan, that is my tactic. Obviously I need to stay fairly close to the 2 cars in front and not let them run away too far up the road so I can stay within contention with these 2. As you can see, the BMW is starting to pull away a little bit, just about a second away from us. And one thing you probably also noticed as well is that I'm actually running race labs. We've got the track map up there, up in the top right, which is different to the track map that is part of the in-game HUD for Le Mans Ultimate, which I have turned off. Also got the input telemetry kind of throttle and brake traces that you can see there with the histogram. Not the smoothest on the throttle and brakes, but I'll make it work. And then up there in the top left, we've got a different set of standings, the ones that are there in Race Labs, rather than the one that comes in Le Mans Ultimate as standard, because I find it a little bit limiting, only showing the 2 cars in front of you and the 2 cars behind. It's basically no different to the relative down in the bottom left. Obviously the relative is part of the multifunction display that is there, so there's more pages that you can kind of flick through to gain access to other controls, such as setting up your pit stop, functions of the car, getting weather information and tyre state information and that sort of thing. But I'm using the Race Labs standing board up there in the top left, so I can get more information as to what sort of lap times other people are doing, the gaps between myself and them, and also just have a greater number of drivers actually listed as well. So, as you've probably seen, we're getting closer to the 2 cars up in front, holding quite nicely onto the back of them. The BMW is still lingering in and around about a second just up the road, but we're staying nice and close with the Ferrari, enough so that both cars in front are moving over to the left-hand side down that long back straight. And you can see that both of them are a little bit more aggressive going through the long triple right-hander there. That's one place where you really do eat and chew away at the tyre if you're really, really aggressive. Obviously, it is quicker doing it that way, but you're going to eat into the tyre life more, which therefore means you're going to have less tyre grip later on in the race. BMW once again down this start-finish straight, moving across to try and break the toe from myself and the Ferrari as we are getting closer. The gap down now to 0.7 seconds rather than lingering in and around 1 second, so 3/10 or so. And as you can see on lap 2 there, we did set the fastest lap of the race so far, but it's not exactly too hard to do with no one really getting an opportunity to put any particularly fast laps. Trying to use as much of the curbs coming through this first sector and the S section as we possibly can, whilst also trying to avoid track limits, because it's pretty easy to pick up track limit warnings and penalties. So we've got a pretty good run here, coming down through turn 10 now on the Ferrari, so much so they're feeling the need to go defensive, forcing them to the inside. We're going to have a look down the outside initially and then try and switch back underneath, taking quite a bit of curb there on the inside right at the apex. There is quite a big turtle curb there as well, which does bounce and unsettle the car and hurt our momentum coming off the corner, but we are now tucked right up underneath the rear wing of the Ferrari in front, picking up the slipstream. They are defensive, they're blocking that inside line, so we're going to have to go to the outside, getting pretty close there as we come into the braking zone, having to think about going around the outside, but didn't quite feel confident enough that they weren't going to run me out of road on the exit there, nor that I'd have the grip and momentum to go around the outside, so a slot in behind them for now. But getting very, very close, as you can see, sniffing at potential opportunities, just not quite making anything work. But this is starting to bring P4 into play now as well. You see, they're starting to close in and get a little bit bigger in the rear view mirror as we come into the triple right-hander, again being nice and patient with the throttle, not really pushing that front left tyre too hard, as they both eke out a little bit of a gap there on me. Nice and smooth through the penultimate turn, and then coming into the final corner, dropping down into first gear just to try and get that little bit of extra rotation and a little bit more oomph and drive coming off the exit. So again, the BMW is going over to that inside pit wall on the left hand side of the circuit here just to try and break the toe again. Myself and the Ferrari quite happy to move across and follow them to try and pick up the slipstream. Nice and smooth through turn 1 there. So we drop down the hill now into the long right-hander at turn 2, completely flat out, no troubles here. This left-hander flat, and then just a short little dab on the brake, just use a little bit of throttle just to try and balance the car, prevent it from sliding around too much. The Ferrari getting up all over the curves, potentially running some track limits warnings going through there. Then we come into this long right-hander here, try and open it up as much as possible to try and straight line the exit through turn 9 there. Got a little bit loose, running out a little bit wide. Now we've got ourselves a track limits warning, and despite slowing down, still get 0.25 points. You can see we get a total of 5 points throughout the duration of this race, and depending on the severity and I guess the advantage that you gain when exceeding track limits, it's going to determine the number of points that you get with each track limits excursion. So that was just a small one. We've got plenty of points in the bag as the Ferrari showing their nose to the BMW in front, and it's actually baited them to defend the inside line, so getting very close up on the rear of their car, almost making contact just coming out the exit of the corner. Had to hesitate getting on throttle there as the Ferrari's out very wide now, coming into this right-hander. This gives us the opportunity to slip down the inside. We are side by side, but they're going to have the inside line coming into this left-hander here. We do just about manage to nose ahead, but we're coming from a long way out, and them holding the tighter line, the shorter route through the corner. They do manage to slot ahead once again and maintain their position. But starting to get a bit of a sense that the Ferrari's a little bit desperate, starting to make a few little mistakes here and there, so there could be potential opportunities throughout the duration of this race, as we're only, well, just over 10 minutes into it, and we're still very much there within contention. The race leader 0.6, 0.7 seconds up the road, so things are very close. As you saw, P4 also getting pretty close, and P5 is lurking not too far off in the background. It's a very small minor lock up there, with the Ferrari running over the outside curb upon the entry to the corner. They're now having a look down the inside, coming into turn 2. The BMW gives some room. It's going to be side by side, almost between the two of them, as the Ferrari redresses back in behind them, following very, very closely. As you can see, putting a lot of faith and trust in the BMW in front of us. We're just kind of semi-keeping our distance a little bit, just in case there is contact and they do slow up. So I want to give myself, obviously, a little bit of breathing room to react to that kind of situation. Good drive off the exit of turn 9 there. Again, picking up a track limits warning, a very slight lift this time, and that time the system deemed that we gained a bit more of an advantage than we did last time. Obviously, a much smaller lift than I did last time, so I picked up 0.5 points for a total of 0.7. Again, the Ferrari looking very, very close to the rear of the BMW and starting to let to the inside. The BMW is moving across as well to squeeze them to the inside. This is going to be a good potential opportunity to try and close up that distance between us and them, as they are once more side by side coming into this hairpin. Getting it very, very close there to bumping into the rear quarter of the Ferrari as they were trying to slot in behind the BMW in front of them. So very, very close racing and battling so far, and it's only going to get tastier and more intense as this race continues on. So do not go anywhere, because things are going to start heating up very, very soon. So yeah, just continuing to try and babysit that front left tyre going through the long right-hander there. As P4 is closing up and getting very close to the rear of our car, coming into the final corner, and they're pretty close coming off the exit. We do have a slight momentum advantage to them coming down the start-finish straight, as P1 and 2 are increasing the distance. I don't feel any threat from the driver behind, so I just take my normal line, maybe slightly defensive in the braking zone there, but only marginally, probably moving across about half a car width to a full car width across in the braking zone, just in case they did go for the lunge. But evidently they're showing a good amount of patience and didn't really feel there was an opportunity there to make a move in turn 1. They're also probably aware that with the two cars battling in front, we don't want to lose time to them by battling away ourselves, so it's best to just be patient for now. Let the two cars in front fight and hold each other up, so we close back up onto the back of them and try and pick up any sort of pieces if there is any drama between the two up ahead. Closing up nicely, under braking there for this hairpin. Getting a pretty good drive off. As you can see, a little bit stronger on the brakes in some places than Damien behind us. It's the two cars in front. Again, moving around on the straight, just trying to break the toe, position themselves defensively. It looks like the Ferrari is quite comfortable running the curbs on the entry and the braking zones to some of the corners. So go ahead and set a purple middle sector. Obviously, the first sector showing yellow there, meaning that it wasn't my fastest nor the fastest first sector, but we've got the fastest middle sector at the moment. And still, just trying to look after that front left tyre a little bit. Nice and smooth through the penultimate turn. It is quite a tricky corner, that one. The rear tyres can really get unloaded if you're very aggressive with the brakes, and the steering input going into that corner. And even the BMW, which is quite a stable car, has swapped ends on me a few times going into that turn. So you really do have to kind of be measured and balanced on the brakes to ensure that you don't end up losing the car and unsettling the rear. See different lines and approaches there by the two cars up in front of us. The Ferrari trying to get up all in the mirrors and fill the mirrors of the BMW in front. You can see they look very comfortable, sitting in nice and close to the BMW through this first sector as well. Obviously these cars do rely on a fair amount of aero grip, but they can follow each other pretty closely without being affected by the dirty air too much. There is obviously some effect that does impact grip, but it's not as big as, say, the GTP or LMP cars that are here in Le Mans Ultimate. Again, the Ferrari looks like they've got a pretty good run on the BMW and looking to their left-hand side, trying to get the inside line on the run down towards the hairpin, but it looks like the BMW's got it covered and does move across to completely close that door and force the Ferrari to the outside. They're going to try and switch underneath and cut back, try and get the good drive coming off the exit of the corner, almost rubbing and touching wheels there coming into this right-handed hairpin, and we got very close to the rear bumper of the Ferrari in the process as well, and having a look down the inside there, almost going for the Charles Leclerc line. BMW saw that coming though and closed that door off, but now they're side by side coming into the long right-hander. This could be an opportunity for us to get up the inside of the Ferrari, and we do place ourselves there on their inside, but the Ferrari takes away the acceleration zone and we have to be careful as to not get on the throttle too hard to wash out wide, get very close in the braking zone coming into the penultimate turn there as well. The Ferrari holds on to the position for now. Things are definitely getting closer as we are now into the final 30 minutes of this race. 15 minutes done, 30 more minutes to go, plus the lap that the countdown timer reaches 0 on. Using a little bit of ground down the start-finish straight and trying to close that up in the braking zone there. Leaning into the ABS a little bit, but not too heavily. Nice and smooth through turn 2. A good run through here, see if we can close up on the BMW in front. It looks like both of us, the Ferrari and myself, have the pace over that leading BMW, and P4 is definitely in the mix as well. We've broken away from P5, the gap about 3 seconds just under to those behind us, so we do have a leading quartet of 4 cars pretty close in the pack. Trying to line myself up for a good run off the exit of the hairpin here. BMW immediately going across to block off the inside line coming down this long back straight as the Ferrari going pretty good straight line speed. Now the BMW is trying to break the toe. Not really sure where to go myself in terms of picking up any sort of slipstream. It seems like the effect is fairly small. So we're just trying to translate the power off the exit of the corners, nice and close to the Ferrari up in front, trying to get a good drive off the exit of the right-hander there. And now another look down the inside of the Ferrari coming into this hairpin, having a sniff down the inside here. We do bump over and run that curve, get a whole load of oversteer, and we do get the illegal, have to give back the position sort of penalty there. But the Ferrari goes slow. The BMW that was in 4th place sniffs an opportunity and goes up the inside of us. I can't quite get the car turned in towards the apex here. That allows the Ferrari to kind of do a little bit of a switchback and get to our right-hand side by side through the penultimate turn, just about giving enough room on the exit of the corner there as we're once again side by side coming into the final corner, getting good drive off the exit, but the Ferrari goes and spins in the rear view mirror. So in and amongst all that little bit of chaos there, trying to make the move, the system deemed that I overtook illegally off the track because I took a little bit off the inside of the corner there and bounced over the curb, which is exactly what happened. So I had to give the position back immediately, but I'm not entirely sure why the Ferrari decided to let me back on through. They must have thought that we had a little bit of contact with them and therefore slowed and let me through. But in the process, the guy who was in P4, Damien, had a phenomenal run through that series of corners. We get a little bit loose there coming through this first sector. Yeah, had a phenomenal drive off the exit of those corners into the triple right-hander and managed to jump the both of us up into second position. But yeah, we didn't make contact with the Ferrari on the exit of the final corner. It looks like they just lost the rear end and spun. So the pressure is off to the cars behind. We've got a gap of 1.8 seconds, as you can see via the relative. And these two BMWs in front are now going at it hammer and tongs, as Damien in P2 now is really trying to have a good look at the BMWs in front as we almost go 3 wide off the exit of the hairpin there. Getting very close, both of us trying to do a switchback on each other, as Damien Motta has now got himself up into the race lead, jumped the old race leader of Cogger. But we are very, very close here, coming towards the braking zone, looking down the inside. We're going to be going 3 wide in the braking zone. We're very tight to the apex, managing to get the car just about slowed down. We do manage to get ahead of Damien, but Cogger has gone off wide on the exit there. May have picked up a illegal overtaking position opportunity here, as we're now 3 wide again on the exit. We managed to split the BMW as Damien comes back at us on the right hand side, splitting that BMW. We do manage to come out ahead though, out the exit of that sequence of corners, but my god was that tense, so tight between the 3 of us. It's phenomenal racing as we were so close, door to door, wheel to wheel, all of us just swapping positions. I think there was a little bit of confusion and possibly the illegal overtaking off track penalty coming into the mix there, which kind of curated that situation, as we got Damien Motta looking down the inside of us there, going defensive to Cogger behind them in the final corner. But we have managed to come away with the lead. So now is my opportunity to try and pull away from the 2 cars who are battling quite hard behind us as we come into the braking zone for turn 1. Looks like Cogger's having a look down the inside of Motta, trying to get back that P2. So this is our opportunity. We need to try and pull away, not look in the mirrors too much, and start to use some of that tyre life that we've hopefully preserved in the opening segment of this race. Try and put that to use and get the pace going, as it looked like Damien lost the rear end of the car there going through the SS section of the first sector and lost the rear end. That's gone and promoted Cogger up into P2, as Damien has now dropped down into P6. So now we've got a 0.7 second gap. We've got a back marker up in front, but they're 3.5 or so seconds up the road. Is a little bit of front locking there coming into the braking zone. Just double checking the tyres, and as you can see, both the front tyres sat at 87%, the rear tyres sat at 90%. Temperatures looked okay, maybe a little bit under their optimal sort of temperature window. It should be in and around 95 degrees. I think the front left was in and around 91, but the last few corners that we've been to were right-handers, so it would have left-handers, so it would have worked the right-hand tyres a little bit harder, and the left-handed tyres would have had a little bit of respite. So now we need to push, as I mentioned. We need to push and try and build this gap to the guys behind. We are closing up on the back marker up in front of us, so hopefully they won't be a factor, and hopefully we'll respect the blue flags and move out of our way. Just trying to get in towards that apex, get on that throttle a little bit harder and a little bit earlier coming through the right-handers. Now we're going to start trying working that front left tyre and try and use hopefully that some of that tyre life advantage from the opening laps to pull away. But at the moment, Cogger has just closed up in those last few corners and is now 0.3 seconds behind. They're in our slipstream coming down this start-finish straight, although I don't think they're going to be quite close enough to make a move coming into the braking zone. Having a little bit of a look down the inside, but braking basically nice and late, or as late as I deem it to be safe to still make the apex, and indeed we do. They don't basically get any opportunity to try and make an overtaking manoeuvre into turn 1 there. So now we just need to nail our apexes, make use of the curbs, try and keep a nice steady flow and rhythm through these corners and not pick up any track limits penalties. Try and line ourselves up for a good exit off the corner here, which we do indeed manage to do. So I've just got to try and keep being consistent and hold on to this race lead. Let's come into the braking zone here, and we've gone way too deep coming into this right-hander. We get a whole load of opposite lock as the rear ends go and break loose. Ended up making contact with Cogger behind, who was trying to come underneath us. Pretty unfortunate situation there. A mistake completely on my part, lighting up the rear tyres, losing traction and losing control of the car. It's just unfortunate that me and Cogger ended up making contact off the back of that, but we, fortunately for us, just about managed to hold on to the position. But now P3 is here as well, and P4 is not too far behind, so the pressure from the cars behind us is starting to build up as we're basically at the 25-minute mark. So we've still got over 20 minutes remaining here in this race, and I just got to try and hold on to P1 here. So it'll be great to come away with the race win in our very first online championship race. And again, you can see that other people have the measure over me coming through that long right-hander, not quite getting the line right or being aggressive enough with the car, and they're very close coming off the exit of the penultimate turn, having a little bit of a look, showing their nose coming into the final corner to try and put me off. Doesn't really work too well, and if anything, it's cost them a little bit as they're dropping off behind us, coming down this start-finish straight here on the climb up towards turn 1 at the top of the hill, closing up quite a bit in the braking zone, but not close enough to actually make a move and send it down the inside. Although we are closing up on the back marker of P21. Gap is now a second. Obviously you can see we're much visibly closer as we ride and surf the bumps and curbs coming through this first sector. As Cogger's having a little bit of a look down the inside there, but that door was always getting shut coming from that far back, and they thought better of it. Thankfully that back marker did get very nicely out the way for us there, not impeding either myself, Cogger, Nobre or Gago behind. Again, Cogger having a little bit of a look down the inside there, making contact with the rear of our car, coming from quite far back, but they redress in behind, and thankfully kind of saw it coming and was preparing for the slight tap and a little bit of oversteer there. He's got the slipstream here. He is now starting to close on the run down to this braking zone, but we brake nice and late, and that prevents them from drawing up alongside us. So I'm just trying to be smart and clever with when I'm defending the inside line, trying not to defend clear air or go for any of their baits that they may be faking, just to try and put me under pressure, make me move around and try and make me make a mistake. So I'm just trying to drive smart and place my car in the appropriate position as and when I need to, when I feel like there is a genuine threat from Cogger behind, when he is actually legitimately going and trying to make an overtaking opportunity. Is once again moving around in the mirrors, trying to distract me into the braking zone of the final corner there. Have closed up quite nicely as this did fall shy of the apex, and now they're in the slipstream pretty close, so I am going to have to go defensive on the run up towards turn 1, moving across. They do opt to switch to the outside. I'm going to park the car a little bit at the apex just to try and prevent any sort of switchback, which they, in the end, they don't actually end up going for. So holding onto the position now, but the pressure is certainly building. Just trying to be nice and smooth. Again, riding those curbs, although going a little bit deep there for that second apex. Not quite as much curb as I wanted. Turned in slightly early for that left-hander, which made me able to kind of double take on the steering wheel. Still, we get a good drive coming off out the exit of turn 9 through turn 10 and now down the hill towards turn 11. Let's not make the mistake this time of braking deep, braking late. If anything, Cogger behind probably broke a little bit too deep and a little bit too late there. That's actually cost them, giving me a little bit more breathing room, which is always a relief. Again, just double checking the tyres, 82-83% on the front. May have been a little bit late there by a couple of metres on the braking zone, but we managed to get the car slowed down and near the apex. You can actually attack the curb on the inside quite aggressively without causing too much issue. I really had to kind of lean into the ABS braking, which I don't want to do too much here in these GT3 cars. You can lean into it a little bit, but you don't want to be going too hard, too heavy into the ABS. You don't want to be at 100% the entire time. in the braking zone, so you got to be careful and just try and sit under it as Cog goes well out wide off the exit of the penultimate turn there. No doubt they probably would have picked up some sort of track limits warning or penalty for that one. But it looks like they're taking it on the chin without really slowing down. So the gap is still less than half a second. A little bit deep there in turn one. Didn't quite get the car slowed down and in towards that apex. As always, need a good run through this SS section of this first sector. Watching out for the bump, trying not to unsettle the car too much, as you can get into situations where the car starts to four-wheel drift, and you can see him just playing around with the throttle, trying to keep the flow and momentum of the car going, whilst also trying to hook in towards the apex of this first sector, as the tyre wear is starting to become a factor, I feel. Not quite got the grip that I was obviously had earlier on in the race when the tyre life was at 100%, and it's therefore getting a little bit more difficult to actually get to those apexes whilst maintaining the speed and get the car slowed down appropriately. At least for now, we do have a little bit of a gap to P3, so it's just myself and Cogger at the moment. Still half a second between the two of us. Again, going a little bit deep there at the apex of the turn 12 hairpin. Having a little bit of a look to the inside coming into this right-hander, but they remain, for the moment, right behind us on our rear bumper. Going a tad little bit of defensive here into this left-hander, just in case they were going to try and take that Charles Leclerc line and take the shorter route in towards the apex, because it felt like they were close enough and May thought about the opportunity of trying to go to the inside, so I wanted to kind of half cover that a little bit just in case they wanted to go for it. Getting a good run there through the final corner. Pretty reasonable drive off the exit. We are pulling ever so fractionally away from them, despite them having the slipstream. Now they're going to start coming towards us as we come into the braking zone. They're looking to the inside of us here. We're going to have to give a little bit of room, as very, very close to tapping the rear bumper of our car just as we came in towards the apex. Didn't really quite get enough of an overlap to warrant themselves any room. That's good, good racing by Cogger to recognise that and avoid the contact. The front left's really starting to struggle. Again, Cogger having a little bit of a look to the inside there. Not really able to draw up alongside. They are very close to the rear of us though as we come off the exit of turn 9. Track limits warning. I'm not going to lift this time. Look at that, another 0.5 points. So at 1.25 total. We've still got plenty of room to the overall 5 points that are allowed here in this race, but still not ideal to be picking that up. And they're just checking the temperature, checking the tyres just to see what state they are in. This Cogger is pretty close, having a little bit of a look to the inside coming into the braking zone. They just about managed to get themselves there, so we're going to have to give them room, and well, I didn't really put up much of a fight there. And in that moment I was kicking myself off the back of that. I'm not really defending and effectively just letting them have the position. So we go for the move down the inside here, taking the Charles Leclerc line. They try and go for the switchback, but we kind of get slow and semi-park it on the apex there, which prevents them from taking that opportunity. We do manage to regain the lead, but yeah, as I was saying, I was thinking internally in the moment, it's like, why did you let them have that so easy? You didn't really fight it around the outside, and that just gave them the lead. Thankfully, we were able to very quickly mount an attack back on them and regain the position, but that could have been easily me just gifting away the win. So I know I need to be a little bit more aggressive here in this final stages of this race as the time is continuing to tick on down. So no threat there into turn 1. It's very, very difficult to overtake here in the first sector. It's pretty much a no-go with the lines and how the how all the corners just flow one into the other. Obviously, Cogger's been getting close in a couple of places, mainly through this long right-hander here and having a bit of a sniff coming into this left-hander, but they've never really gotten quite close enough for them to be warranted room on the inside. So it's all about the drive and the exit off of this corner, which wasn't particularly great. I thought I was running a better line there, but the actual run off the exit of the corner wasn't great, and Cogger having a little bit of a look to the inside, so I'm going defensive, forcing them to the outside. And we again get a reasonable drive off the exit there, much better than Cogger's was. So we're able to pull away slightly off the exit of the corner and break any real threat from the slipstream on the run down towards this hairpin here. Let's just try and nail our marks. Cogger closes up an awful lot in the braking zone there. Certainly a lot more confident than I am on the brakes. Probably got the tyres in a slightly better state than I have, despite me trying to babysit the tyres in the opening half of the race. So there's obviously something that I'm not quite done right in terms of my approach with the tyres. I don't know whether it's that I've not pushed them enough or I haven't looked after them enough in the opening sector or the opening section of the race, and Cogger has done a better job than I have in either of those two things, which is giving them the position and the opportunities to really push as they get a quite good run through that penultimate turn and force me defensive into the final corner. Recover the inside off though, forcing them to go to our outside, and as you saw, they didn't go for the switchback. They're coming into the final turn, so we live to hold P1 for another lap, but that pressure is increasing. P3 is also closing in on us as well. They're gained about a second since the last time I mentioned P3. So yeah, the approach that I've taken here in this race hasn't quite worked out in terms of pace over the other drivers. Obviously the pace is good. It's not exactly bad, as we get the race control warning up in the top right there to say that there is 10 minutes remaining here in this race. But yeah, my approach to this race just hasn't quite been as good as other people. This is split 2 of 4 at this time slot as well, so I'm not up against the best, the fastest drivers in Le Mans Ultimate, but we're match made very appropriately to a similar score of skill level to what I am at the moment. It seems like as we've got pretty equal sort of pace between a whole bunch of drivers up in the say the top 5 or so. As you can see up in the top left there, you can see our fastest lap times and our last lap times in comparison to one another, and we're relatively comparable, although my 2:08.7 isn't particularly great compared to some of the other drivers in the top 4. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what my pace is like once I actually get up into the top split compared to the other drivers there, because I've done a reasonable amount of online races, but obviously not enough to get up to quite that rating to be in top split, and it seems like other people may be in a similar sort of position to I am, but at least there is a bunch of us and we're getting match made with one another to have some great competitive racing, as you can see. The pressure is still very much there from Cogger behind. It's not really relenting. I'm very much thinking just 10 more minutes, Yorkie, 10 more minutes. Try and hold on to this P1 and come away with the race win here. Let's go a little bit deep there into turn 1. Cogger closing up once more. We'll be getting our dirty air though as we come through this first sector. So again, just trying to be nice and smooth, make sure that we hit all our marks, let's not make any mistakes. Presents Cogger with any real opportunities again. They get a good run coming off the exit of that double right-hander and having a little bit of a sniff to the inside, but again that door is closing. They weren't really ever getting enough of an overlap to be warranted room there, but they are getting closer with each attempt that they make there. They're just, I'm guessing, being more aggressive coming through that section as now they're having a look down the inside, so switchback it is. That's what I go for. They do go a little bit deep off the exit of the corner, which allows us to retake that first position that I momentarily lost there. And as you saw, the drive off the exit of the corner was much better, was able to get the car rotated much better than they were, apply that power sooner. And that allowed us to build a little bit of room coming into the braking zone for that hairpin that we've just been through there. So nice and steady, Yorkie. Again, let's not try and make any mistakes. Just be smart about our defence as they go to the inside, getting very close there, coming through the left-hander. We are just about ahead. Coming into the right-hander though, the tighter line is going to be better, but we need to make sure they don't switch back underneath, but they do get that switch back there. Try and take that acceleration zone away from them, holding it pretty tight. Just about managing to stay legal with the curve. We've got the inside line coming through the penultimate turn, but again they're trying to switch back underneath us. We're going to go defensive before they can draw up alongside and cover off the inside line, forcing them to the outside, but they've got a good run off the exit of the final corner here. This is going to be a good opportunity for them coming into the braking zone off the first turn, so we are going to position ourselves to the left hand side, try and force them to our outside, which they do go for. So we're going to move across and squeeze them a little bit, but obviously leave that car width there on the outside on the approach to that first corner. They're now alongside, just about getting their nose in, coming through turn 2, having to play with the throttle a little bit. We pick up an illegal pass somewhere along the line there as we get overtaken and slightly retake the position. We have to give that position back with just under 5 seconds remaining, coming through the long left-hander there, which does give the position to Cogger, but they've not had the best of runs coming through turn 7, 8 and now 9, so we get a good drive off the exit of turn 9 into turn 10. We are side by side, very very close between the two of us as we are on the approach down towards turn 11. I've got the inside line here, just need to hold that and take the position, try and cover off the switchback, forcing them a little bit out wide there as we're pretty much clearing the overlap. But this has brought P3 right up into play as well, as you can see, 0.3 seconds behind. So moving across to defend this race lead on the approach towards the hairpin. Cogger faking the outside there, so I'm going to move across and basically hit my marks. They've gone deep, switch back underneath them. That should allow us to retake the position and regain the lead once more as we come into the right-hander. They're still there, slight little rubbing on the rear quarter, the rear bumper of our car as we came into that corner, but we do manage to redress back up in front once more as things are very very close, and now even P4 is in the mix. We are once again a 4-car train with our battling, swapping positions, holding each other up, bringing the other drivers behind us into play, trying to use as much of the tyre as we possibly can coming through the long right-hander there to try and build ourselves a little bit of a gap and hold on to the position as we are basically into the final 5 minutes of this race. We get a track limits warning there initially, but we managed to clear that without gaining an advantage there. But that lap got really quite intense and a little bit hectic. A little bit surprised by the illegal position penalty that I picked up there and having to give the position to Cogger, but some fantastic intense racing between the two of us. Really quite hard and aggressive racing, but remaining fair at the same time. And I live just about to hold the race lead for another run through this first sector, but we know that Cogger is pretty strong off the exit of that corner, so slightly tighter line, and again not the best as Cogger is closing up. They clearly got their car and their tyres in a better position than I have in this latter half of the race. Again fairly close on the inside, having a bit of a look coming down towards turn 11, enough to distract me a little bit, and I ran a little bit deep, so they're there on the inside, but they go and lose traction. Looking to the inside, trying to get the drive off the exit of the corner, and they spin off to the right hand side of the circuit there. That has completely relieved that pressure from Cogger behind, as we've got a little over about 3, maybe 4 minutes remaining here in this race, and I've now got a little bit of breathing room once again. The pressure from Cogger has now completely dissipated, and instead second place is now Ivan Nobret. They're just under a second behind us, but it has given us a little bit more breathing room and given us a little bit more time to focus on the road ahead and not think about the cars behind us too much. So that's what we're going to try and do. Try and hold on to this position. We just obviously need to be clean, clinical, not make any more mistakes in these last couple of laps. As you can see down in the bottom right, we've got 2.5 laps of NRG remaining, as the back marker gets nicely out of the way there before the final corner and doesn't impede P2 or P3 either. So yeah, 2.5 laps as we go across the line in terms of fuel remaining, or energy, virtual fuel here. I don't know why the ACO and the FIA have decided to implement virtual fuel to the GT3 cars. I know it's kind of for BOP reasons, but that can also be done by the amount of fuel that is allowed to be carried in the fuel tank and the fuel ratios. It just makes it a little bit more confusing for the fans watching the series to understand that there's some virtual fuel rather than actual fuel. I kind of get it with the GTP cars and the hypercars, where they have the hybrid and the fuel consumption kind of combined. It makes a little bit more sense there in kind of combining the two to create this sort of overarching virtual fuel, this one fuel load that they need to worry about. And there is that 1 minute warning for the remainder of this race, and at this point in the lap, this should be the final lap of the race. So I just need to be clean, smooth and clear through this latter half of the lap, and we should come away with the race win, holding off P2 behind, who is now over a second. But yeah, the virtual fuel in GT3 cars is a little bit of a confusing one, but still it's something that we have to deal with. But we've made sure to carry enough for this race here, and as you've seen, we've not had to make use of a pit stop, but this race has just been absolutely phenomenal. I've enjoyed the battling that I've had, good, hard, fair racing with numerous people having to attack but then also defend in the second half once we got the race lead as well. It's just a bit of a shame that Cogger lost the car on the exit of the turn 11 hairpin, because they were a real threat and were certainly having to make me work for the race win here. They could have potentially picked up the win themselves, but we come out of the final corner one last time to win my very first race here within the online championship game mode. Very happy with that. Hope you guys and girls enjoyed it. Please leave a like if you did. Consider subscribing here as well. Please leave your comments, questions about Le Mans Ultimate, the subscription model, online championships, or about this race down in the comments section below. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Until the next one, have fun, stay safe, and take care.